Matrix Analytical, Dave Bartoo. He and the crew running the #1 college football staffing firm in the country. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. And Bartoo, any snow out there in Oregon?
No, not for the last couple days, but what happened a few days ago is still sticking around. It's about 17 this morning, so fire's burning hard in the fireplace today.
Okay. Yeah, we're at 30 right now, and it feels like 24.
Yeah, and y'all are just losing your mind down there because it just doesn't do that very much.
No, people, people have gone through the grocery stores like Sherman went through Atlanta. So it's been kind of crazy. We'll see what happens the next couple of days. Well, we had the GOAT step down in Nick Saban, and we have had, hundreds of conversations with you about Saban and how he operates and the godfather of modern day football recruiting and some of the amazing hires he made as coordinators and some of the misses, and that just happens. But Kalen Deboer is trying to replace Nick Saban. And tell our listeners how y'all look at him as far as coaching grade and some of the guys that he is bringing with him to Tuscaloosa, Bartoo.
Well, from the staff side, it's kind of just rumor, but those are generally pretty accurate because they make a lot of sense. But DeBoer, we we were when we were grading everything out, when we submitted our reports and everything, the plus side for DeBoer, when you're looking at 3 phases, okay, and so when we grade head coaches, usually when I'm talking about a coach grade, it's on field. Right. So, when I talk about DeBoer and his on-field grade, meaning what has he done with the talent he has versus the talent he's faced? Has nothing to do with recruiting, doesn't have anything to do with staffing, just the results of the guys that he has. And he's an elite field coach. And he was #1 in terms of our target report for that job. Staffing, he's an excellent staffer. Doesn't matter where he's been. He's lost a few guys here and there. He's got a few guys that have been with him pretty much everywhere. But he's a real good staffer. The big question mark is going to be the recruiting side of it. And that is where he was weaker compared to some of the other guys that were out there. But when you really look at all the guys that were available, how many ultra strong recruiters were out there relative to their coaching acumen and so forth. So, this was from our standpoint, this was the top field coach available in college football. So, from that standpoint, I think they nailed it. The staff, well, they've only filled in the offensive side so far. They got their offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb. That is the highest graded offensive coordinator since Steve Sarkisian. So I expect Alabama offense to be better. I don't know how much better he can make Milroe, but I expect it to be a lot better. Offensive line, score, big upgrade. They kept their running back coach, I believe. Is that right? I think that was what was out there. And they brought Shepard over as wide receiver coach.
Okay.
And Shepard, look, they lost Wiggins. Wiggins is top 5 in the country, wide receiver coach grade. So it sounds funny. Wide receiver coach of the year is considered a downgrade at Alabama, but at best it was a wash. So, but overall on the offensive side of the football, the Crimson Tide are, in my opinion, way ahead of where they were last year.
Okay. Wow. All right. So DeBoer would be, I know you don't necessarily grade the games, you and Adam and the team of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, but we all recognize going 67-3 there and winning 3 NAIA national champions is unbelievable because it doesn't matter what level you're doing it at. If you're doing it, then you're obviously you're excellent, right?
Right. And something here's one of my basic rule of thumb barometers when I try to figure out how good a guy is. Okay. Your absolute okay. Let me rewind here a second. When I say head coach impact, which head coach, in your opinion? I said, Bo, give me the number one guy. If you had to improve year over year, okay, you fired somebody, you hire somebody, and you're trying to improve as much as possible, what guy would you hire to try to improve your program for 1 year? Who's the biggest high impact guy you can think of in the last 15 years?
Urban.
Bingo, right? Because where did he do it? He did it at Ohio State. He did it at Florida. He did it at Utah. He did it at bloody hell Bowling Green, right? And so that's all he was kind of the barometer of, if you're an excellent coach in the first year, you change things, right? You change things. Chris Peterson at Washington, boom, instantly changed that entire culture. Deboer at Washington, Deboer at Fresno State, Deboer as an offensive coordinator, Indiana, dude. He had Indiana in the top 10 as an offensive coordinator. That's like Vanderbilt in the top 25. Who does that kind of stuff, right? And so first year impact guys, those are your elites. The guys who flip it after year 2, those are very, very good, right? Those are hard to find. Year 3, those are good coaches. Year 4, you better have it flipped by now, or we'll move it on. That's why I always say give guys 4 years, unless there's no progression.
Right.
And you go with Ed Orgeron at Ole Miss, and it was like, oh my God, that was horrible first year. Okay, we're gonna get better. Oh crap, we didn't get any better. Okay, third year we got no. Okay, same thing. Okay, we can't do this anymore. Right. So we're not gonna go to the 4th year because there was no logical progression there. But I think that's always been my rule of thumb in terms of when I'm just casually grading a guy is how quick is his impact. So with the Kalen Deboer, everywhere he has been, you mentioned NAIA, right? But everywhere he has been, the first year is an immediate and obvious impact. And so Alabama's going to step back because, well, it's not Nick Saban, dude. Nobody's replacing Nick Saban, okay? But do I expect things to fall off very far? No, not really. Well, maybe if he hires T-Rob at DC, but no, not really.
Okay, so you're not big on, is it Travaris Robinson, who just left Alabama to take I don't know what it is, the pseudo DC job. As long as Kirby Smart's there, he's running it. But you don't look at him as some kind of elite defensive coordinator or coach, right?
Well, as a defensive coordinator, his only experience were those few years at South Carolina.
Under Will.
Under Will, right? And I've had people say, okay, well, he wasn't even calling the plays at South Carolina. The defense is horrible, but he wasn't calling the plays. I'm like, okay, well, that means he has no play calling experience. You're not calling a guy with no play calling experience elite at all, right? But if you say, oh, he was calling the plays, whoa, there's nothing elite about those years he had at South Carolina in whatsoever way, shape, or form. So either way, you have a no experience guy or a poor experience guy. That's not an elite guy.
Okay. So back to you're grading Greg Byrne. Mm-hmm. You feel like, bottom line, considering who was out there, that Kalen Deboer to Alabama was an excellent hire, right?
That was the first guy on our board.
Okay.
And that was what our report was. The first guy on the board. My personal bias, I hate to say it. I had a little personal bias. I'm like, wow, it'd be kind of cool if enough guys turned it down where he got to Jeff Brom, because 5 years ago I put out a little tweet that said Jeff Brom would one day replace Nick Saban. So, which something. If a couple guys said no, that would have been a really good hire too. But Deboer is the best field coach available in college football, and Greg went out and got him.
All right, you mentioned something, Dave Bartoo, Matrix Analytical, the number one college football staffing firm in the country. The overwhelming majority of coaches don't know how to staff. They just hire their friends. Bartoo can lay out they do all kinds of cool stuff. All right, here's the deal.
Yep.
You tweeted out that 3 of the coaches who took jobs were insane positive coach effect for 2023. And that was DeBoer, Jed Fish at Arizona, and Mike Elko at Duke. And they all moved to Elko to A&M, Fish to Washington now, and DeBoer to Alabama. So you give a thumbs up to all those hires, correct?
And Jonathan Smith.
Oh, yeah, from Oregon State to Michigan State. Thank you.
Oregon State to Michigan State. So of the 5 Power 5 guys that led the country in coach effect, 4 of the 5 are at much bigger opportunities now. So Smith to Michigan State, Elko and so forth. The one guy that was in there, Lance Leipold at Kansas. And I don't think anybody wanted to even touch him because his buyout right now is $12.5 million. And I know Lanning's is 20, and I know DeBoer's was 12, but DeBoer at 12 and Leipold at 12 are 2 different animals. That's apples to oranges, dude.
Right. Man, that's amazing that Oregon was able to structure that contract that way. And Bruce Feldman was talking about over the weekend that it was actually, he believes, well north of 20. But even at 20, that's an AD that did it right. Don't you agree, Bartoo?
Or did it right, or just got lucky, right?
Well, I can't believe Lanning said yes, to be honest with you, or Lanning Sexton or whoever in the hell it was. I can't believe that they agreed to it because to me, he's got a lot of chips too in this thing. Right?
He does now, but did he 2 years ago? Right? I mean, I think that was signed 2 years ago. He was just coming off a 9-3 season. He was just coming off a loss at home to Washington on bad coaching decisions, a loss on the road to Oregon State on bad coaching decisions. I mean, there wasn't the leverage there is today. You could have felt it could have been coming. And that's what Rob Mullins was banking on at Oregon, is the organization and the character of Lanning, that he felt, look, this guy is going to take us places that no one else has. And he was banking on it, but it was still a calculated gamble. And I think it was his goal to try to bring in some coaching continuity, because we don't see a whole lot of programs that are successful without coaching continuity. If you're losing your guy every 3 or 4 years, you just never get any traction. And that's kind of where Oregon was. And I think they've been bitten so many times and lost so many guys over the last few years.
True.
Is they wanted to try to avoid that. And look at coaching continuity in your conference, right? A lot of these guys that have been sticking around, not going anywhere, their program just keeps getting better and better and better. You flip a guy every 2-3 years, you're just running in mud. And I think by putting it up there early was more of a safety guard rather than being a savant saying, oh, I think this guy's going to be elite down the road and be worth it.
All right, Dave Bartoo, Matrix Analytical on the Out of Bounds show, driven by your next Nissan Pathfinder at Cannon Nissan in Jackson. Give our listeners your Lincoln Riley, Chip Kelly, Ron Day theory.
Well, it spawned out of being wrong, right? I mean, that's.
And you acknowledge you were wrong on Chip Kelly. We've talked about it.
Yeah, but that's part of. I've been doing stuff in college football and now the NFL long enough, in that. We know that what we do, we can't be right all the time. We're hoping to be right about 80% of the time when it comes down to staffing. It's our 80-20 rule. But I always look forward to being wrong, especially being really wrong, because then it makes us go back to the drawing board and be smarter and try to dissect where we went wrong. And when Chip Kelly got hired by UCLA, me and the crew were just like, oh, UCLA's going to start winning football games. You looked at Chip Kelly as a play caller. You looked at Chip Kelly as a on-field coach, and his numbers were absolutely outstanding. And then at UCLA, he sucked, right? And then his second year, it wasn't very good. And the third year, it got a little bit better, but not very much, right? And so remember how I was telling you before about the 1, 2, 3, 4 years. Chip Kelly, I think under normal circumstances for a lot of programs, would have already been fired. He just happened to be at UCLA. It really didn't care as much as a lot of other places, in my opinion. And it took us back to the drawing board, and we're like, where did we go wrong? Well, Chip Kelly at Oregon never had to staff his own program. Mike Bellotti did it for him. Chip Kelly didn't have to create a recruiting system. Mike Bellotti did it for him. Everything was built for Chip Kelly. All Chip had to do was show up and call plays, which he did at a legendary level for 7 years, 8 years at Oregon, right? But then when he moved on and went out from underneath that umbrella of Bellotti, he couldn't staff. And, and he couldn't recruit. And now we have the same thing, Lincoln Riley. Staff built by Bob Stoops, recruiting system built by Bob Stoops. Everything is great. All you had to do was run an offense at Oklahoma. He leaves Oklahoma, just like Chip Kelly left Oregon, goes somewhere else, struggles with staffing, struggles with recruiting. So I'm not saying it's going to turn out the same way, but I'm seeing a lot of similarities in that guys that had something else built for them struggle when it comes down to their turn to build. That's why I caution people when you're looking for a head coach, especially if you're down, right? If you're down, don't go get the hot guy that's never built anything. Get the guy that has had to build from the bottom up, right? Jed Fish has had to build from the bottom up. He's going to have to rebuild Washington because there's not a lot of talent there, right? Jonathan Smith's going to have to rebuild Michigan State because it's a mess. He's already done that. But you bring a guy in that has never built it before, then that is the big question mark. And I think we got over our skis on Chip Kelly, and I think we even got over our skis on Lincoln Riley because we didn't realize maybe at the time that we weren't sure how good of a staffer they are. So just something to keep in mind. I'm not picking on Lincoln or Chip or any of these guys. I'm just giving that as an example for everybody listening that, not is all what it seems when a coach has no experience in staffing where he's at.
All right. Bartoo on the Out of Bounds Show. ESPN 105.9 The Zone. This is fun. We'll go right now. Now that Nick Saban has retired. Still crazy to say that. What can you give us your top 5 now as far as college football coaches?
Field coaches?
Yeah, field.
Field. 1, 2 is Deboer and Riley, or Deboer and Smart.
Okay.
Nothing changed there. I mean, Alabama and Georgia still 1, 2 in field coaching. I'm trying to. I don't have it right in front of me. We added in all of the calculations at the end of the national championship game, and I'm trying to. I think Braum's going to stay in there in the top 10. Kleiman will stay in there in the top 10. Off the top of my head,
is Kiffin?
Harbaugh will probably be number 3.
Oh yeah,
but then Harbaugh's going to be gone, though, right?
Yeah, he could be gone this afternoon or in the next couple of days. But so Harbaugh is in your top 5. So you got
5.
DeBoer, Smart, possibly Harbaugh, Braum's in there somewhere.
Yeah, and I don't know if Dave's going to stay in there. See, there's another dude.
Who?
There is another guy, right? I mean, he's struggling with staffing too.
Who?
And Ryan Day.
Oh, Ryan Day. Okay, got it. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
It was all built for him. The system was built for him. The staffing was built for him. And now that's kind of, we're starting to see maybe some struggles there as well. He's hired and fired a lot of guys trying to find the right combination, and he got the defense fixed, and now the offense was that poor this year relative to what he's used to. So he's having fun with that college football roller coaster. So, but 1, 2, 3, DeBoer, Smart, and Harbaugh, absolutely. I'm trying to rack my brain for the other guys.
Let me ask you this. Right, between 5 and 10 with what he's done the last few years at Ole Miss, has Lane cracked the top 10 yet?
I don't think so because look, we don't weigh it based on he's been good the last few years,
okay.
Right? I mean, we still add in USC, we still add in Tennessee.
Oh, I got you.
And you also have you also have with With Lane, we don't factor in the recruiting. We don't factor in the staffing. Actually, Lane is underrated on the staffing side.
Yeah.
He's done a pretty good job there. Not very high on the Brown acquisition that he just pulled in. Numbers aren't stellar on that one, but overall body of work. I think if you went last 10 years, Lane's probably top 10 in on-field coaching. But we don't like draw lines or play favorites. So you're still probably looking at top 15.
Yeah.
Overall.
So still
right?
strong, and he's basically he's trending into the top 10 if he continues.
He's done a phenomenal job. Come on. Everybody sees Ole Miss, but what they don't see is FAU before that. FAU is outstanding. He turned, and this goes back to how quickly did things turn. See, at FAU, he showed up. That thing was a dumpster fire. He turned it the first year. And when he did that, I remember looking at the numbers. I can even remember getting our final numbers going, he did what? And I was looking at it. And I was like, did he turn a corner? Because it's a shock to me when you see a poor coach turn good. It is a shock to me when you see a really good coach turn bad. It doesn't really happen that way. Usually they have a system that's good and it stays good and they evolve. Or they're just not very good and they stay not very good because a lot of these guys are set in their ways. But that FAU year, that first one, he immediately got up on our board as big question mark. Where's this going? Right? And then the second year it got better. And what was cool is he lost his offensive coordinator. And he did some really cool things. And then he brought in his brother to be a DC for a year, which was excellent. Chris. And
where did Chris just go? Georgia or Bama?
Chris?
Yeah.
Well, isn't he at the Texans right now?
Okay.
Yeah. Well,
I thought there were some rumors that Kiffin was little Kiffin was going.
Well, yeah, and then he was, and then Kiffin was the recruiting coordinator at Ole Miss for like 5 years, right? So he's got a ton of recruiting experience.
All right, so you nailed it, Bartoo. He's with the Texans.
Okay.
Chris
right.
Kiffin.
So he's with the Texans. Absolutely outstanding defensive line coach as well. Everything Chris has touched has been really, really good.
Nice.
But with Lane at FAU, everybody sees him at Ole Miss, but we were excited about what we were seeing at FAU. And it started arcing, and I went against my own interest, right? I said, I don't think that's going to work out at Ole Miss. And all my data engineers are like, no, dude, he has turned the corner somehow, and he's going to be awesome at Ole Miss. And I took a lot of bets and lost a lot of money on that one. He did keep that arc going.
That was fun. We're going to have to do this again soon. I've got like 4 or 5 more questions or topics that I want to hit. Hey, Bartoo, thanks, buddy. Take care.
All right, take it easy.
Matrix Analytical, #1 college football staffing firm in the country. Thanks for listening to the show today. What do we want to do? Let's go lunch today, brought to you by Fleetway Market and the Market Cafe in Gluckstadt. Plus, they've got Key City Beer, SoPro, and Stella Artois and Kona Big Wave Golden Ale. But try the ribs or the blue plates at Fleetway Market and the Market Cafe in Gluckstadt. We'll see you tomorrow.